Hello everybody, welcome to Bass and Bonsai. This is how you do it. Big, giant, largemouth bass. And oh yes, she's a kisser. Mwah. Hello everybody, welcome to the show. I'm talking today, since the fishing sucked, I'm going to put together a quick video on the Kuying Teton rods and my overall thoughts on them. So we did catch this little guy right here. Finally, we catch one fish, and it took none of the baits that we were using, chatterbait, and then we're taking a picture of that little dog. You saw that one? Yeah, it was on a chatterbait, I know. Bite was very tough here. Crazy warm temperatures compared to what we've had, 68 degrees. They may be starting to spawn, I don't know, they're just not eating anything. I want to talk about rods. I'm not going to talk about reels or anything else from Aliexpress. You've probably seen the Kuying Conqueror fiasco I've had so far. I bought 5 Conqueror rods, broke 2. I bought the Conquerors because of the Tetons, the Kuying Tetons, and how stout of rods they are. And they're great rods. They're cheaper than the Conqueror rods. Why the Conquerors are just junk, they just so far to me are. You tell me, if I bought 5 and 2 are broke just by casting, that's not good quality. And those were like 120 to 160. The one that's 160, 6'10", heavy, it's still good. But anyway, let's talk about the Conqueror. Anyway, let's talk about these Tetons. If you guys, and yeah, they're pretty much close to what the specs. You look them up on Aliexpress and they'll pretty much about what they do, but they'll overdo what they're rated for. That's what I loved about the Tetons. The Conquerors, they won't do what they're rated for, just even casting. I broke both my rods casting a 1/2 ounce chatterbait that should have easily casted. I can cast it on the 6'6" one-piece Kuying Teton, no problem. I could probably even cast it on a 6'3" too. But the ratings are pretty much what they say. But if you guys are kind of like, well, you know, like me, you're mainly a bass fisherman at ponds, lakes, river systems, to where, you know, you're not going to those real little small streams, you probably don't need this rod. If you crappie fish or want to crappie fish, occasional crappie fish, this is a perfect rod. This is a 5.22 super ultralight. You can cast a 16th. You can cast. I like casting an 1/8 ounce because I found with this bait casting reel, they tend to, you crank them a little bit faster than spinning, you know, the gear ratio. So that heavier weight, I feel, on a BFS setup, I can, you know, reel about the same like I would on a spinning setup, which I used to use years ago, and I get about that same depth, roughly the same speed. Now you can always go to a 16th. Now you do need to have a reel that's capable. I'm kind of recommending the PW100. I don't know if it's my favorite to date, but it's pretty close. That's a good reel as far as Aliexpress reels. But let's talk about what I recommend. If you say you want to try this one for bass, you're like, okay, Charlie, I want to try the lightest one that, you know, cheapest that Kuying makes. They make a one that's even lighter than this, but it's actually more money. But so for 50, 55 bucks, this is the lightest you can get. Super ultralight, 5'2", 2-piece. Like I said, 16th ounce crappie jig. You can probably go a little lighter, or 1/8 ounce is what I really like. That's a sucker right there. So what else can you throw? You can throw pretty much anything that you want to throw. It's good. You can set the hook on crankbaits and all that. The baits I recommend that I like to throw, and I can throw them on this or the 6'3" too, but I'll talk more about that later, why I like it better. And I hope you can see these. I'll try to get you down here a little bit. That's one I talked about last year from Bass Pro Shops. They're roughly all the same size. That's that little scatter wrap. I believe that's what they call it. What's the name of it? I don't know. Yeah, I think it's called scatter wrap. That's I think the smallest one they make. They're roughly all the same weight. And then this is that little like $1 square bill off Aliexpress, and they come in several colors. That's probably my favorite color. But that size baits, you guys can make out roughly what size that is. And if you want to compare it to what you'd be maybe familiar with, would be well, let's put this one up. I was having not any luck with anything, but that is a 1.0 Strike King square bill. Everybody kind of knows the size of those. You see how much smaller these are. That's a little bitty bait. A lot of guys don't even throw those on bait casters. They'll throw spinning gear with that, but you can, that's like easily thrown with a lot of bait casters, really. But so you can see the size I would throw on the 522 along with the along with this. But that range, and you can throw, you know, soft plastics. I don't know about trying to, you know, maybe other than this, you know, you could rig up some kind of little worm maybe on a jig head, but I'd leave an exposed hook. Trying to Texas rig some kind of bait, you know, weedless, this isn't going to have enough really ability to set the hook on baits like that. So everything else that I'm talking about here, I would also, and I kind of myself like throwing better, and I'll talk more about it. You want to see one of these get thrown with this thing? I'll throw, this guy's probably the lightest of the bunch. And I'll kind of compare it to the 6'3". I'll throw this bait on both. Because I didn't even have this rod last year when I fell in love with this little bait. I had it on the 6'3". But let's get a good shot here and show you distance. Now this reel's not as good as the other reel that's on the 6'3". But I'm not going to do all that swapping. That was me. I tried to zing it a little too hard. And if you guys aren't familiar with BFS, the last thing you want to do is try to zip something out there. Certain things you can, but most generally no. So let's try that again. Started to, but it didn't. You see how far we got, and that's about average with this rod. And what's funny is that as you'll see, but it's perfect for like I like it for the crappie jigs. I just love it for that. That's an awesome little crappie rod and reel setup. But the reason you probably won't see me buy any more of those, I'm going to keep that one. I'm not going to get rid of it. I like it. It's fun to use, you know, for myself or anybody else that wants to, you know, catch a big fish on or a bigger fish on a little rod and reel combo. Makes it fun. But this is a 632, and it honestly feels just as light. It's just longer, if you ask me. I feel I can cast pretty much about the same lightweight baits as I can with the 522. But this thing, you're going to get the same distance roughly, especially with 8-ounce for sure. That might, you know, the same reel would possibly get a little bit further with a 16th ounce. But as far as just control of casting, and then once you get a fish hooked on, there's just no comparison to two. You know, that one's fun to use. This one, you're probably going to get the fish in. If you guys saw me last year, if you haven't seen that footage, go back and watch me throwing a 1/4 ounce, I don't know where it's at now, but the Pop X, that's where this, I love this rod for down to this size, and this was one of my favorite baits to throw. And you can't just burn this bait, but if you throw this bait out, and you can get more accurate. Like the other one is more whippy. This one's got a little more control. You can make a little more accurate cast with the 1/8 ounce baits or anything heavier than the 522. But it will also throw, and I'll just see. Let's find out. Let's throw. While we're here in the middle of doing all this, I might as well throw, and this is the actual bait. This is the exact one, the jackhammer. I only own one black and blue jackhammer that snapped the Conqueror rods trying to cast them. The first one was a 6'6" medium. Now, you can see that. I wouldn't be afraid to I wouldn't be afraid to fish with this thing. I might set out and do that one day. As far as with the jackhammer, I wouldn't want to really try to set the hook with the Z-Man Originals. That jackhammer hook is a little bit sharper, but I broke 2 Conqueror rods casting this exact bait. Look at that. Now but I wasn't doing that with the other ones either. You know, I'm not rearing back and casting as hard as I can, but I'm casting where, you know, it's loading the rod and it's casting it out there. as far as you'd want to, you know, throw a chatterbait. But as you can tell, 6'3" 2-piece is capable of casting half-ounce baits. If you remember right, the 661 is capable of casting 1-ounce baits. You threw the whopper plopper with it. So if you got any questions, comment below. I'm gonna probably just put this as one video clip, you know, talking about the tetons, because I have some of you guys are commenting on there about oh, you know, you're kind of scared that the conquerors are breaking, and you're like, you know, doubting that you shouldn't have bought this, or you're debating, you know, if you're debating about buying the tetons, don't hesitate. For 55 bucks. And I do like the one piece. This is the 661. I had it rigged up with the double drop shot. I don't have time to set and change and show you how big it weights, but just go back and look, whopper plopper on the Kuying Teton or whopper plopper on a BFS rod, and you'll see that video. But this thing will cast it'll cast the 16th ounce, but it's like a little iffy. I wouldn't recommend doing it. The 632, if that's what you're mainly casting, is at 2 grams, and you think you might want to go lighter, get one of these other 2 tetons. But if you're starting out like me with those 1/8 ounce baits, 1/8 ounce crappie jig, you can crappie. I've crappie fished with this one. This one just a little bit stouter, and then but to being a one piece, it's probably a touch more sensitive, but those others are sensitive enough with braid. But it's hard for me to say which is my favorite, because if, you know, last year I had some awesome days on both of these, but my overall favorite is probably this one. You can throw that 1/4 ounce Pop Max. It's like an awesome topwater rod to, you know, to just have fun. If you're worried about making sure you get a big fish in, it's probably don't want to use any of these. This one I wouldn't be afraid of, you know, putting a little more power on one. This one here, a 5-pound bass, you kind of just got to let it do its thing. But you kind of have to do that with all these lightweight ones. You know, anytime you're fishing with 10-pound test or lighter, you're not just going to horse a fish in. So you'd be doing the same thing with the spinning reel, but you got a little more control with the bait caster. So the only one I'm going to throw in, just because it hasn't broke yet, this Conqueror 6'5" light, but it is actually quite a bit stiffer than the 661 Teton. The Conqueror and I think that's why these tend to have been breaking on me. I think they're almost designed roughly the same, maybe just with an extra wrap, but the same kind of process as the Tetons. But when they wrap this on it, it makes this part stronger, but then this part's still the same. So it's kind of almost like, imagine, you know, when you're trying to lift a fish, and you see people do it all the time. Anytime you come up in here and you try to lift a fish, a lot of times it'll snap that rod right in two, to where if you just would have lifted it, it may have lifted it, and you wouldn't have broke the rod, because it lets this give. And I don't think this gives enough during casting on those stouter rods, and this is still limber enough, and I think that's why the two of them broke. Is that X-wrap stuff. That's just my thoughts on it. But as far as, because you can see the difference, these rods are rated roughly the same, but I'll try to show you if I can get it like that. That's stiff. That, I don't know if you can see that. See that extra give? This rod doesn't really have it. Right where I start bending it, it doesn't have that. This rod, and that may not be a lot, but when you're pushing its limits kind of thing, that may be the only difference why these rods are tougher and lasting way longer, and these rods are snapping. That's the only thing I can think of, is they're just a whole different blank material that sucks, I guess, is the only other thing. But this rod, I'll probably snap it, but it's pretty stout. I don't know how those others broke. And I contacted, you know, Kuying store where I bought them from. They wouldn't, you know, help me out in any way. I said, what if I buy two more, like the one that broke and another Kuying Teton rod? They offered me a 5% discount, and I'm like, no thank you. What I should mail them is like, okay, what if I buy another 6'8" medium light? Because I did like that 6'8" medium light. It's just a little bit stiffer than this, kind of fit in where it's something I needed. You know, what if I buy another one? If that thing breaks in the first, you know, this season basically, or first few months of fishing, will you replace it for free? you know, or give me my money back because I'll be done with the Conqueror lineup. But anyway, I hope you like the Kuying Teton, my take on it, what baits I throw. As far as the 661, it'll throw any of my, like a 1.5 or smaller square bill, any of that range, you know, up to, I've thrown half ounce. I have a video out where I was catching them and doing good with the half ounce. I thought it was a 3/8 or so, but I think it was about a half ounce chartreuse spinnerbait with the gold blades, and was doing real good catching big bass with the 661. So this rod, and I'm tempted to buy another one of these and a spinning version, and picking out some kind of spinning reel just to kind of have some comparison, you know, for you guys that are, you know, debating like, why just go buy a cheap spinning setup, which you can buy like a $29 spinning setup and get the ability to cast these lightweight baits. But man, you're going to struggle with, you know, bird's nest, just the weight of the rod and reel, and the lack of sensitivity, and just it's probably, you'll be lucky to get a season out of it, and then you'll be buying another piece of junk, and then it will suck. And if I had to fish with $29 setups, I just wouldn't fish anymore. Plain and simple. I would, you know, a good quality rod that's fairly sensitive. Reels, I'm kind of a reel snob. Not really. This one's all right. I'm probably going to sell it. Probably going to go with, I got one coming on the way that I think's got an internal drag clicker. So I think I got one. Let me put this up before. Let me end this video. Talking about Tetons, and then I jumped on the BFS rant. But I got one coming that I think from Aliexpress got an internal clicker like this, so when the line's pulled, it'll click. That could be a game changer for me. It's a BFS reel. It's called an Alpha SL or something. Not the new Alpha SW or TWS or whatever they are, but the on Aliexpress, and I think I got it on sale for 55 bucks. Now they'll be like 60 or maybe 65. But if it and it's got a red, it's black reel with a red spool, kind of like the new Daiwa Airs that are coming out and have been out. But if that reel, if I like it, that's probably what I'm going to just buy from now on. I may even stock up and buy a few if it, you know, after the season's up and it seems like it lasts. But as of right now, and I'm kind of a reel snob, I kind of like this reel. I've talked about it a few times. It's not going to have the performance with the bearings anyway. I may put some better bearings in it, but it casts plenty capable enough of what you'd want it for BFS right out of the box. I just changed the handle. I'm going to try to get better looking drags for if I buy a couple more. But if I don't like that Alpha reel, I'm probably going to end up buying a couple more of these to put on all of my Kuyings. Use them more for true BFS and crappie and lightweight stuff, and then get I'm actually debating and trying to work out a deal with Hobie One Kenobi. You know who you are. He's got a Steez CT for $440. I'm trying to get him for $4. I might offer $420, but I think about getting the Steez CT, the new Steez Air, and of course the newest that's not out yet, the Alpha Air. And then those will be, once I get a couple more rods to go with my 6'5", they'll be like that mid-range, your what I call power BFS. Then I'll have my normal gear that I'll probably have some of these Tetulas. Because this rod and reel is a very good setup. It's like just above BFS. This is your finesse, but you can't really call these BFS. That's the SV spool with the, what they consider a medium rod, but it's got this crazy little tip. I don't know if you guys seen that in the video yet. It's got like almost like an ice fishing rod tip, and maybe that's where the technology came from. And it's fairly sensitive, but it's got crazy stiffness. Like I can throw, I don't think I'd have an issue. I gave 70 bucks for it, which is an awesome deal for me. I don't know what they originally sold for. You can't get them anymore, which sucks, but I'm not getting rid of this one. I jumped on it for 70. I can throw crazy lightweight. I can throw 16th ounce shaky head with the worms from Z-Man, no problem. Yet I feel I can throw, I've thrown a chatterbait on it. I feel I could throw a ½ ounce jig and set the hook on that jig hook. Like this rod is like an all-around sensitive for, you know, whatever. I like it so far. Might change this, do away with that, put one solid cork handle on it, which I think would make it feel and work better for me. I know a lot of you guys would be like, oh, you're killing it, it looks awesome now, but yeah. So anyway, and I put an actual black Tetula on it and put this SV on something else, because I'm probably going to get the black SV from Aliexpress that comes with the red SV spool. And real quick, and I'm getting out here, it's almost a 20-minute video, just me rambling on out in the middle of nowhere, not catching, they ain't biting. You want to hit them for topwater? Check out that video if you may see it. I may go around here with topwater. But if you don't know this, when reels are released, the JDM versions are usually different than the American versions, and for sure on the Tetulas. There's a Tetula version of this reel, the SV, that the hole that's got round holes here, it's more of a black or a dark gray looking reel, and it comes with the red spool, SV spool. Now then there's a Tetula, and that's one that I think is black, and it comes with a cork, the molded, not the old OG cork knobs, but it comes with like cork knobs, and it's got a different look that you couldn't have got those over here. So I think I'm going to get those, and then I already got a type, the original Tetula Type R coming, the all black one that says Type R up here like the old PXR. So look forward to my kind of reviews on those. I had them years ago when they first come out, wasn't a huge fan. I'll try them again. You know, I got to get out here. This is a 21-minute video. I'm going to try to leave it all together. So thank you guys for watching. I'm done. If you got any other questions, comment below. I'll try to answer what I can. But I like this setup. It's a little tip heavy. If I put a cork grip on it, I'll probably add just enough weight to get it to, you know, get it a little more balanced. Because that's a decent size reel, and it still just has a too tip heavy for me. Just a touch. See ya. Exactly how we do it. Big largemouth bass. Let's see if it'll jump. That is a beauty. We're gonna jump. Yeah!